Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Climbers. This is Whitney Ward. As you can see, different change of scenery for this week as I am at my sister's in Tennessee. A week from tomorrow, she will be getting married. But I still wanted to do a Mountain Climbers episode for this week since I won't be able to do one next week because it will be wedding week. So we're super excited about that. But I am so excited for my guests that will be on Mountain Climbers. Their story is so inspiring and it shows that God is still in the miracle business. My guests today are Christina and Isaiah Custodio, mother and son. So let me ask you this as a parent. What would you do if you felt all of your child's life that he was going to die someday? Not a great feeling, but that's exactly the feeling that Christina had about her son Isaiah. And then one day, it seemed like that feeling was going to become a reality, and the Custodio family embarked on a very scary and frightening journey. And Christina had to pray and beg God to change his mind. And she had to get to the point where she was at peace, whether God took her son to heaven to be home with him or whether he allowed him to live. She was at peace because she understood that Isaiah wasn't hers. He was God's. And so that's a tough place to get, but that's where she had to be during this time. And God did change his mind, and he gave Isaiah a miraculous story of healing and a purpose that is so amazing. And he wants to inspire and instill in others that God has a plan for them. So let's go and meet up with them through Zoom. And I just know that you're going to be inspired that, despite the times that these unforeseen mountains come that totally knock the wind out of you, you'll know that God has a plan and a purpose for your life that will get you to the top of your mountain. Hey, Christina and Isaiah, thank you so much for being on Mountain Climbers.
Thanks for having us.
I am so excited for everyone to hear Isaiah's story and to see that he is a living miracle, and for you guys to get to tell why he is a living miracle, because it's going to just be proof that God is still in the miracle business. But before we dive into that, I just want to hear a little bit about who you all are and where you're from and just what you guys do.
Well, I'm Isaiah. I'm in the middle of my two sisters. My older sister is 19. She's in college, at the same college I am.
Uh-huh.
Little sister is a sophomore at high school.
Okay.
She is 14.
Yeah, he's sandwiched in between two very strong girls.
So are you the only boy?
Yes.
How's that?
How's that?
The what?
How is it being sandwiched between?
I guess it's okay.
Yep. Well, if it's any consolation to you, my dad is the baby and has 3 older sisters. So.
Oh wow.
But
yeah.
He probably got special treatment, is my guess.
He did, because his oldest sister was 17 years older than him. So
wow.
he was an oops. So.
Yeah. But we're a pretty. I don't know. I was gonna say we're a normal family, but I don't know if we're really that normal.
Normal was overrated,
We've been told we could have a reality show that would be very entertaining.
Well, cool.
Yes.
Maybe it will happen someday.
Yeah, but he is just like my husband, and so that's interesting. Yeah.
Is it good, interesting, or
It's a good, interesting.
It's good most of the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, Isaiah, you, up until, you had your scare, you were always healthy and athletic, correct?
Yes, I played basketball and football. I did wrestling at that time. I started again when I was a kid. I played soccer, so I worked out, with my dad usually.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pretty active
Yeah. So the day that everything kind of happened, I mean, probably totally blindsided you. And I know, Christina, you shared that you always kind of had this foreboding kind of feeling that something bad was going to happen to Isaiah. So the day that you got a phone call from football practice saying, you know, you need to come, he has a headache, did that even cross your mind? Like, oh, what I've feared all this time is about to happen.
At that time, it did not. I just thought he's got a headache, and they just felt like he shouldn't practice
Yeah.
with a bad headache. So I didn't really worry too much. I had just been to the grocery store and I started to finish putting the groceries away. And I thought, I should probably go ahead and get him. So when I got there, I still wasn't too worried.
Yeah.
I got out of the car and they had to help him up off the ground. And I thought, oh my goodness, he's being so dramatic, because he's got a little dramatic streak. And, but then when he got to me, he was not speaking correctly. He could only say one word at a time.
Yeah.
Throwing up. It was not normal.
Yeah. What were you feeling, Isaiah? I mean, did at that point, did you think like something serious is going on?
At that time, no, I didn't know what was happening.
Uh-huh.
Just wanted to go home.
Yeah.
I was like hurting. So, mom is with me. I feel better kind of.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah.
no, I didn't know what was happening.
And the words were like home, pain. Is that
help?
Help.
Yeah.
When he said help, that kind of scared me because I thought that was an odd.
Yeah, that's very odd. So is that kind of what prompted you to take him to the ER and, your husband Ozzy met you guys there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it prompted me to take him because the fact that he couldn't get out a full sentence, he wasn't really responding in a normal way to questions and he could not hold himself up. We had to kind of lay him in the back seat. And at one point he fell onto the floor of the car.
Yeah.
But so
scary. I mean, here he is healthy, and then
right.
Oh my goodness, that would be. So something prompted you to look in his eyes.
Yes.
What did you see?
I noticed that his pupils were not moving, and I thought, I think pupils are supposed to move. I put a light in his face, and I thought, nothing's happening. I knew they were supposed to move.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that one was bigger than the other. One pupil was bigger than the other, and I knew that was not right. So I called the nurse.
Yeah.
To look.
The nurse, his reaction, did that cue you in on, okay, this is probably really serious?
Yes, because he looked in his eyes and then he just walked out. That's not normal.
That would be very nerve-wracking. And, Isaiah, I want to ask you again, like, were you aware of what was going on? Were all of your, cognitive capabilities there?
As soon as I got to the hospital, I blacked out there. So
wow. So no, you had no clue. Yeah. That's really, really scary. And I think one thing I've always appreciated about doctors is when they're compassionate and kind, but they don't sugarcoat anything. They let you know what's going on. And it sounds like his neurosurgeon was that kind of doctor. And when he came to you, you knew. You just knew.
Yes. Well, they did before we had to transfer hospitals. So we knew that at that point he had a brain bleed and very serious. And they told us that he would probably have to have emergency surgery. So of course, that was probably the point where I thought, this kid's going to die. Like, that's what I had always felt. So, yes, once we were in the hospital in the waiting room, right before they took him to surgery, the doctor came in and just like you said, he was compassionate, but he did not sugarcoat it. And I think he probably told me in 3 different ways that Isaiah could die on the table.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what? Can you speak? I mean, what's your heart do?
I could barely speak, but at one point I said, okay, I got it. Do you legally have to keep telling me these things?
Yeah.
Or can you please stop,
Yeah.
And can you just go fix him? I just wanted him to stop talking and go.
Yeah. I mean, didn't he say like, not only he might not, come off the operating table, but he could have severe neurological defects. He might not recognize you.
They didn't know. They had no idea. He said if he'd survived, then he may not know who we were. He may not. Basically, he could be in a vegetative state. That's kind of what we were warned about. That it just wasn't good.
Yeah, you definitely would want him to stop talking. That's for sure. But what I love about you guys is you recognize the power of prayer, and that's what would move mountains for your son during that time. And you had the neurosurgeon pray, you had your family and friends pray, and they even came, didn't they? And
we had the waiting room was completely full of people, and we did not expect that. I just sent out a text, something's wrong with Isaiah, pray, we're headed to the hospital. And that room filled up with friends and family, and it was really powerful. But there was a point where everybody kind of just gathered around and joined hands, and different people prayed around the room. And after that, I felt so much more peace. And also, I just at one point by myself went into the bathroom, and just my prayer to God was, change your mind, because I'd always felt like Isaiah would die. And I just, I knew that he still could, but at that point, I really trusted that God was going to handle, if he was going to die, we were going to be okay, that God was going to be with us. And if he lived, hallelujah, but after the prayers, I felt like it was probably going to be okay. Wasn't quite sure, but.
How difficult was it to get to that point to say, okay, if you take him, I'll still praise you and, be a Christian and everything. And if he stays, I'll still do that. I mean, as a mom, I can't imagine how tough that would be.
I think because I had faith beforehand. And when Isaiah was born, when all of our kids were born, I basically was like, God, I know that they're not mine, that they're on loan. And so kind of from the beginning of all of their lives, that was my mindset. But, when faced with the fact that I actually might have to give them back, it was a little different. But because I had already made that decision ahead of time, I think it wasn't as difficult. I just trusted God that regardless of what happened, he was going to make sure we were okay.
And I think that's good for other parents to hear, because it's unimaginable if you're not in that experience. When the time comes, God will give you the peace you need. And I think that's definitely something people, cling to. And, how long was his surgery? I'm sure it was the longest hours of your life.
I think it was about
15 hours.
It was about 3. I think it was about 3 hours.
3 hours
or so.
It probably felt like 15, but
3 to 4 hours, I believe.
Okay, how did you know after the surgery, like, it's okay, like, he's gonna make it?
I really wasn't sure, because still for a few days after, I felt like, okay, we got this far, thank you, God. But I wasn't cocky about it. I didn't feel like this was it. I still felt like something could happen. I had a hard time sleeping. I'm not sure I slept much for a couple days. I mean, I think I kept my eyes on him. If I was in the room with him, I was looking at him. Just to make sure he was still breathing. And it was still a little scary.
It would be, but eventually you knew, like, he's gonna live, everything's going to be okay. But Isaiah, you still had quite a journey ahead of you. You had to relearn basic skills again. How difficult was that? What did that journey entail?
It really was a lot. So I had to come from one word to a sentence. I had to start from basically starting as a baby again, into an actual a grown up.
We could sentences.
I couldn't. So I could say it in my mind, but out of my mouth, it didn't come out correctly. So
That makes sense.
And
How frustrating was that?
It was pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I remember when I was in the ICU, and I was telling the nurse to get out because there was a light, and I really don't like a light when I'm sleeping. And I thought I said, "Please get out." But I was only saying when.
he
So
could only say one word. He would say when.
And
It was W words for some reason, when or what, or so we played. It was almost like charades. Sometimes we had, or Groot, like, you know, Avengers.
Yeah.
He'd say, I'm Groot. Like that was Isaiah.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Now,
one phrase.
did you eventually get to the point where you knew, like when he said when, you knew what he wanted, or
Sometimes, but it was. I was pretty good at it, I guess, because I was there 24/7, but there were still times when I would guess and he would say no, and just I don't know. Sometimes he did mean when.
Didn't you have to relearn like one side of your body, like how to use it again? Were you in intense physical therapy?
yes, I went through physical therapy for
A
a long time. I'm still going through it now because I still haven't gained it back completely. So, but it has gone a long way.
Yeah. He had to learn how to walk
Yeah.
and talk and do everything. He had to learn how to, dress himself. And I mean, it really was like starting from a baby. And it felt, with the language, with even his emotions and things he had. He would have a separation anxiety. He would cry if I left, or it was sad. It really was. We laughed, but it was sad.
Yeah, man, that would be cool. Because like, how old were you when it happened? Were you like 17, 18?
I was 13.
Okay, so wow, okay, that was a while ago. But still, you were kind of on this threshold of new independence that you probably never had because you were like, a teenager, and then you just lost it like all of a sudden. So
yeah,
how was that?
It was so much.
Oh, I can't imagine.
It's a lot.
Was it hard?
It was hard at the time, and then it started to get easier, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It was still hard to, move around. Especially like getting into a car. It was difficult and hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird to me. But
Yeah. And the fact that you're a freshman in college and you're still, going through physical therapy and getting all that back. I mean, it's been a long, long journey for you, but this journey has kind of showed you what your purpose on this earth is. So that's really cool. Can you explain that?
What do you think your purpose is? Has it been made clear?
It is to spread joy out to other people. That's definitely the thing I think I am supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I like in these past 5 years, I've seen what God has done for us, and I'm very thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's what God's done for everyone. Honestly, like I've heard that I've impacted a lot of people. So.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you have. I mean, there's so much power in a testimony, and that's why we're here, so we can say, hey, if I made it to the top of my mountain, so can you. But still, when a mountain comes out of nowhere, it can just knock the wind out of you. And here you were, a teenager, living life to the fullest. Life and death, like matters, were the furthest thing from your mind. And then all of a sudden, this mountain comes out of nowhere. So I would just love for you to encourage other teenagers who have, experienced a similar mountain or will experience a similar mountain. How can they just grasp that resilience and strength from God and make it to the top?
Remember that, even if it doesn't feel like it,
Mhm.
God is there and he has a plan for you.
Mhm.
Um, and, whatever you're going through, God will be there with you.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I've gone through some hard stuff when I felt like is God there? But I've seen that He's there. So
Yeah, you have. That's perfect advice, because you, at 13, that's what you're searching for is God's plan. And, when something like that happens, you think, okay, does he really have a plan for me? And that's what they need to remember. Like when you can't see it, that's when he's working, like doing his best, like handiwork. And then, Christina, from a mom's, point of view, it's hard when anyone faces a mountain, but when you're watching your child face a mountain, I can't imagine how, just excruciatingly painful that would be. So I would love for you to encourage parents, encourage them and tell them, this is how you can help your child cope when these mountains come, and that, instill in them that even though it's hard, they can and will conquer that mountain.
I think number one is really just establishing that trust
Mm-hmm.
that God really does have a purpose for everything that we go through. I don't believe that God makes bad things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes from the enemy.
Yeah.
But I know that God can make something good out of everything that we go through. And, we have hopes and dreams for our kids, of course, but we also have to remember those are our hopes and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes God has a different plan as to how things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And I had I had some shattered dreams concerning Isaiah's life.
Yeah.
But I very quickly had to realize that was my plan, and that my plan is not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
God's is, and it just changed. He's got his purpose. Part of his purpose is inspiring people. He's kept such a joyful attitude through all of this, and even when it gets hard, he just pushes and he doesn't let it get him down. Not for long, anyway. And just parents have just got to teach their kids that things may not happen the way we think they should, but it's God's perfect plan that will, glorify him. It's for our good and for his glory. And we just got to trust it. We have to make a choice to trust God and his plans for our children, not ours.
Yeah, love it. I love what you guys stand for, and what you've done through this mountain. God's truly given you beauty from ashes, and I love that you're using it because like I said, we go through what we do so we can help others and instill in them, I can make it to the top of my mountain, and so can you. And so I thank you for showing everyone that God's still a God of miracles, and he can give anyone a miracle, and he's still in the miracle business. And I think what I love the most about your family is that you show everyone this truth. When your strength comes from the right source, there's not a mountain you can't climb.